So Caitlin Clark's injury is something that is going to massively affect the WNBA. It's going to massively affect the league.
Caitlin Clark's recent injury has sent shockwaves through the WNBA, not just because she'll be sidelined for 2 weeks, but because the ripple effects could be massive. Players around the league are reportedly on edge, worried that her absence might influence upcoming contract talks and potentially cost them millions. The timing couldn't be worse, and the financial fallout could be game-changing. This moment might reshape the entire landscape of women's basketball salaries. How? Do you think this will impact the next WNBA collective bargaining agreement? Share your predictions below.
See, look, there's going to be financial impact in the team for 2 weeks, but the long-term financial impact of this injury might actually be scary.
Let's break down exactly why Caitlin Clark's quad injury has WNBA players losing sleep. This isn't just about her sitting out a couple of games. It's about the potential loss of millions in future contract negotiations that are just around the corner. The timing couldn't be worse for players who were counting on significant salary bumps. Here's the situation causing all the panic. Caitlin Clark suffered a quad strain that's expected to sideline her for about 2 weeks. In most leagues, that wouldn't be a major crisis. But the WNBA isn't like most leagues, and Caitlin Clark isn't just any player. She's the league's biggest draw, and frankly, its financial heartbeat. The first major fallout came fast. The Washington Mystics had been gearing up for a game against Clark's Indiana Fever. Originally set for a smaller venue, the game was moved to a larger arena, just like so many others this season, because they knew Clark would bring in a packed crowd. The team had already invested in the venue upgrade, marketing, and extra staffing, all banking on her presence. Now with Clark out, those investments might not pay off, and that's just the beginning of the domino effect.
Paying all this money, paying up for tickets, and at the end of the day, deciding to not go, all right? Pulling the whole trip off.
Now that Caitlin Clark is out, the effects have been immediate and brutal. Ticket prices were slashed in half almost overnight. Entire sections of the arena are sitting empty, with virtually no sales. Fans didn't buy tickets to see the Indiana Fever struggle without their star. They came to see Caitlin Clark. And this is the hard truth WNBA executives are finally being forced to face. The comparison to Lionel Messi in Major League Soccer couldn't be more accurate. When Messi doesn't suit up for Inter Miami, fans are furious. They demand refunds, compensation, anything to make up for paying top dollar to see the one player who truly moves the needle. MLS teams have responded by offering perks like free tickets to future games and free concessions. Why? Because they recognize the reality. Messi is bigger than the league itself. They don't pretend that American soccer was on some unstoppable rise. They admit Messi is the reason for the surge in attention, and they've built their business model accordingly. Meanwhile, the WNBA has been operating in denial. Instead of embracing Caitlin Clark as the generational force she is, they've tried to maintain the illusion that the league's growth is evenly distributed. But her absence is exposing just how much everything hinges on her and how unprepared the league is to deal with that truth.
All of it can change. If this injury does anything, it should be a wake-up call to the WNBA, the Players Association, the team owners, that just like that, all this fanfare, all this interest, all this newfound attention on the league can disappear.
For the past 2 years, WNBA executives have been working hard to sell the idea that the league's growth is organic, sustainable, and evenly distributed. They've promoted narratives about women's basketball finally getting the respect it deserves, how every player is contributing to the momentum, and how the league has turned a financial corner. But Caitlin Clark's injury is about to shatter that illusion. The next 2 weeks will be a harsh reality check. With Clark sidelined, we're about to see exactly what WNBA ratings and attendance look like without her on the court, and the early signs aren't good. Historically, games without her have struggled to draw significant viewership, and now Some may not even break 200,000 viewers on TV. Arena attendance is already plummeting, with ticket prices slashed and entire sections sitting empty. And this leads to the real source of panic among WNBA players. As they prepare for upcoming collective bargaining agreement negotiations, many have been gearing up to demand major compensation upgrades, charter flights, better housing allowances, child care support, expanded rosters, the works. The plan was to leverage the league's recent growth as justification for those demands. But now, team owners may have a powerful counter-argument. They'll be able to point to this very moment and say, without Caitlin Clark, attendance drops. By 80%, ratings tank, and the revenue dries up. How can we justify million-dollar contracts when our entire business model collapses the second one player gets hurt? That's the uncomfortable question the entire league now has to. This is the nightmare scenario that has WNBA players panicking. They were banking on having serious leverage in the upcoming collective bargaining negotiations. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking TV ratings, and skyrocketing merchandise sales were all supposed to support their case for massive pay raises. But if the next 2 weeks reveal that all of that success was driven almost entirely by Caitlin Clark, that leverage could vanish overnight. Let's be brutally honest. The viewership data tells a stark story. When Caitlin Clark plays, games routinely draw 1.5 to 2 million viewers. When she doesn't, even when other top-tier players are on the court, viewership drops to around 400,000 on a good day. That's not league-wide momentum. That's one player carrying the entire WNBA on her back. The attendance numbers paint an even bleaker picture. Indiana Fever games are packing arenas with 17,000 seats. Meanwhile, most other WNBA matchups struggle to fill venues with half that capacity. When Clark hits the road, ticket prices triple, and arenas that are usually half empty suddenly sell out. Take her out of the lineup, and you're left with empty seats and slashed ticket prices. This puts players in a precarious position heading into negotiations. They were expecting to argue from a place of strength. But how do you justify million-dollar salaries, charter flights, luxury accommodations, and expanded benefits when your league's financial health is tethered to one player? If Caitlin Clark's absence causes a massive drop in revenue, owners may turn around and say, how can we possibly afford these demands when one injury nearly crashes the system? About 70% of the smart money says WNBA team owners are quietly hoping the next 2 weeks go poorly in terms of ratings and attendance. Why? Because if numbers tank without Caitlin Clark, it gives them exactly what they need: undeniable proof that she's the driving force behind the league's recent success. That kind of data becomes powerful leverage in contract negotiations, allowing owners to argue against league-wide salary increases and expanded player benefits. From a business perspective, it makes perfect sense. If you're a team owner and your entire revenue stream hinges on one player who could get injured, retire, or leave for an overseas league at any moment, you're not going to commit to paying every player superstar-level money. Instead, you're going to protect your investment, keep overhead low, and wait until more sustainable, diversified revenue streams emerge. Then there's the question of long-term sustainability. Even if players win the salary bumps they're demanding, what happens if Caitlin Clark retires early or suffers a career-ending injury? The financial foundation of the league could collapse, leaving teams on the hook for contracts they can't afford. That's why some analysts are suggesting WNBA players should actually be rooting for Clark to stay healthy, productive, and visible for as long as possible. Her success isn't just a boost for the league, it's directly tied to everyone else's earning potential. If she flames out or heads overseas, the financial dominoes could fall fast. But here's where the negotiation dynamics get interesting. Players could flip the narrative and argue that the league's over-reliance on Clark is exactly why other stars deserve more investment. Their case would be, if Clark goes down, the league needs others to step up, and that won't happen unless we're paid and marketed like stars too. It's a bold strategy, but also a risky one. because it essentially admits the current momentum isn't sustainable. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Beyond Caitlin Clark, the WNBA has very few proven high-draw names. Paige Buchers has some following, but she pulls in maybe half the viewership Clark does. Angel Reese is a major media personality, but much of her attention comes from off-court. Drama and social media, not consistent elite play. As for players like Aja Wilson and Brianna Stewart, they're elite talents, but their games don't currently command mass viewership. That's the reality the league and its players are. Stewart and Sabrina are undeniably talented, but the reality is they don't drive television ratings or ticket sales in any significant way. Teams like the Seattle Storm, Las Vegas Aces, and New York Liberty can have strong seasons, yet they're not packing arenas or drawing massive TV audiences unless Caitlin Clark is involved. This lack of true star power across the league gives team owners even more leverage during contract negotiations. They can point out that most players aren't directly contributing to the league's recent revenue surge, so why should everyone get a massive pay bump? It's a tough pill to swallow, but it reflects the business reality of professional sports. The timing of Clark's injury couldn't be worse. It's happening right before what's shaping up to be the most critical round of contract negotiations in WNBA history. Players were planning to use this season's momentum as their main bargaining chip for better salaries, benefits, and working conditions. But if the next 2 weeks make it clear that the league's success hinges almost entirely on one player, that entire argument could collapse. There's also a psychological toll to consider. WNBA players have been riding a wave of optimism, finally, feeling like the league is gaining respect and recognition. But watching everything potentially unravel because of one injury is a sobering reminder of how fragile that success really is, and how limited their negotiating power might actually be. Another factor players must face is the financial state of the league. Many franchises